Hello and welcome to Die Rolling. I'm the ever excitable Adam, and wishing you a merry December fest. Whatever you celebrate, I hope you're having a great time of it. The reason I'm currently here talking to you right now is because I've played a couple of games of Dungeon Saga. I've played it solo, I played it multiplayer on the channel, and when I say Dungeon Saga, of course I mean Dungeon Saga Origins, the latest game in the Dungeon Saga franchise by Mantic Games. Now, we got the Ultimate Pledge, or Legendary Pledge or something. Essentially, we have all the campaigns that are coming out for this at present, plus all the terrain, and some extra like goodies like a kind of DM screen and stuff like that. So we've got everything you can possibly currently get for this game. And yeah, I painted these guys up pretty quick for the first initial bunch anyway. So the first campaign, we got everything painted up for that. I now have all the doors I need painted up as well, which is also helpful. And like I said, we played 3 games of it, and I played a couple of solo modes. So what's the purpose of the video? Well, I just wanted to give you a kind of an idea of where my head is at with this game. What my thoughts so far of this are. Obviously, the actual campaign, they're 10 missions long, so 10 adventures long, and we've only done 3 of those. So this is still, you know, there's still a nice kind of shiny new sparkle over this game. So my excitableness, if that's even a word, is obviously going to kind of like I don't know, I've got rose-tinted glasses a little bit at the moment because of the freshness of this game, maybe. But I've noted down a few things which I don't like so far, and a few things that I do like so far. And yeah, I thought I'd share them with you to kind of share my thoughts and stuff. Now, I know before I even start kind of going down my list of the goods and the bads and the uglies, I just want to talk about the elephant in the room. That is HeroQuest. So HeroQuest is a game from the 90s, if you are uninitiated to this, that was made by somebody and Games Workshop. And essentially it was a way, I feel, to get people invested in Warhammer Fantasy kind of war games. Very basic rule set. Back in the day, it was the only thing like it that I'm aware of. And it really was, yeah, a great little kind of game to play. You know, I remember my brother getting it for Christmas one year, and us just going through a dungeon, and yeah, it was just fun. And then I remember playing the computer game on the Amiga when that came out, and Space Crusade came out shortly after that, and I absolutely loved it. I was too young to have my own copy of Space Crusade. I destroyed that thing. But anyway, HeroQuest was a game that, from my childhood, there's obviously a lot of nostalgia around it. So when they re-released it, I was quite excited about it because I thought, well, you know, I really enjoy dungeon crawlers. They're, you know, one of my favourite style of game. I mean, just look at the channel, you'll see the amount of Shadows of Brimstone content we're doing. Just kind of goes to prove how much I enjoy dungeon crawling. So when the new one came out, I was like, well, it doesn't look like much has changed, but there was a sale on a reputable website a while back, and I was like, yeah, do you know what, for that price, I'll give it a go. So I picked it up. The miniatures were updated because they couldn't use the Games Workshop license. So yeah, so I thought, great, they're going to have done some changes to this, made it a bit more interesting. You know, because games have come on a long way since HeroQuest, and I was disappointed. I got at the table, and it was so basic, ridiculously basic. Now, HeroQuest, I do believe, does have a place out there at the moment. I believe there is. You know, some people who are more casual gamers, or people with children who want to get them into dungeon crawling, it's a good way to introduce them to that. And I also know that there's a huge community around it which are making custom kind of scenarios. And there's so many expansions coming out for it that, you know, past the base box, maybe some of the new expansions really add a lot of kind of bring a lot of new kind of life to the game. There's also a solo / co-op app, which has very good narration on there. It's a bit clunky in my honest opinion, but then the game is a bit clunky. So anyway, HeroQuest. Dungeon Saga Origins came up on Kickstarter, and I saw it and thought, oh, these guys are trying to do HeroQuest, but they're trying to do, you know, something a little more interesting with it. They're trying to do a little more depth in there. So I was like, yeah, this is something I'd like to play. So when it turned up, I was excited, got to the table, and I played a solo mode of it. And in the first 3 turns, I was like, this is great. This is really good. This is what I wanted HeroQuest to be. So, going straight into it, let's talk about this game and the things. Let's start with the things I don't enjoy about this. So, the first thing, which a lot of people have called out, is the size of the tiles on the board. Now, I quite like the fact that there's only a couple of actual fixed boards that you put on the table. Setup takes minimal time with this. You're not having to faff around with finding the right L-shaped kind of tiles and the T-shapes and all this kind of stuff. You've got 3 boards, you put them to the right orientation, or more boards depending on which scenario you're doing. You're putting down minimal terrain depending where the hero starts, and you're setting up a deck. I mean, it's really simple stuff. The Overlord does have to do a bit of prep to have a look at the kind of the rule set and know where secret doors are and stuff like that, but the setup is crazy good. But anyway, so the tiles are too small. The actual physical kind of little spaces that the miniatures are going on, with most miniatures, it's fine. You can just kind of move past it. They just about fit on there. Some miniatures, one miniature in particular, it's kind of not unplayable, but it's really tricky playing with a particular character. And I'm gonna just rip off that band-aid now. Olaf the Barbarian. We don't talk about Olaf, no, no, no. We don't talk about Olaf, but I'm gonna talk about him because Olaf, the miniature sculpt, is fantastic. He's got a big bone axe and he's mid-swing. It looks so cool. Much better than a barbarian just holding a sword or an axe. He looks, I don't know, you can see the momentum in the swing. It's such a great sculpt. However, in Dungeon Saga Origins, the way you are facing, it affects the gameplay. You have a front arc and you have a rear arc. And if someone's in your rear arc, so that's basically the three squares behind your character, diagonally left, diagonally right, and behind, then they're basically flanking you, so they've got more chance to actually do damage. So you really do have to be able to face your miniature in a particular direction, so that the Overlord knows where you're going, or if you're using AI Overlord, you're also aware of what kind of bonuses and stuff that the enemies get or disadvantages you get. With Olaf, it's very hard to actually face him in a particular direction because the axe part of his axe, the blade part, is actually going into another square. So when you've got very tight squares and you have a miniature that actually takes up 2 squares, but he only has 1 base to take up 1 space, it's very hard to actually get him next to particular characters, to kind of pile in and attack. So yeah, so that's tricky. Olaf, great miniature sculpt, but gameplay wise, it's really hard to actually play with them. In our gameplays we've done of them so far, we've been quite lucky. When I played it solo, I found a few instances where I physically couldn't move him where I wanted to because he'd be knocking over other miniatures, or I'd have to move into that space but not have him face the direction he needed to face because I physically couldn't do it without knocking everything over. Also, it kind of detracts a bit from the immersion when you have a barbarian who's standing next to a wall, but his axe is in the room. Nitpicking, maybe, but yeah, that's the only thing. The miniature is fantastic, but it's not practical. That's the word. It's not a practical miniature. So, tile slightly too narrow. Olaf. Let's talk about narrative. So I'm a huge fan of thematic narrative games. I sit down at the table. I love the idea of a continual story. Now, Dungeon Saga, the original game, I never played it. I didn't get at the table. I never owned a copy. I believe I might actually have a copy being gifted to me by the lovely Nick, but we shall see. So if we do get that gifted, we will play on the channel. But narratively, if you are coming into Dungeon Saga Origins, you get this nice kind of flavored text right at the beginning, a whole page of dialogue talking about a necromancer. And the whole point of this kind of exchange between three different kind of kings, I think there's a queen in there maybe, is basically setting up this Mortiberus, or whatever his name is, this necromancer as being this evil. And then you're kind of like told, well, you know, if you want to get to him, you're going to need to know how to find him. So you need to find a map. So that kickstarts this initial kind of like campaign of 10 adventures. So coming into this completely fresh without knowing any of the original Dungeon Saga gameplay or the narrative of that, I've come fresh into this and I'm like, right, they spelt out who the main bad guy is of this. I'm using characters which aren't the main guys from the original Dungeon Saga. I cast a vote out on various social media to see who wanted to see what. So I've chosen these 4 characters. I know who I'm after, but before I can get to this guy, I've got to go and find this map. So going into this, I'm thinking, right, the main bad guy is Mortuberus, the necromancer, and by the end of the 4 campaigns and the mini 2 adventures they give you in Dungeon Saga Origins, I'm thinking you're going to defeat Mortuberus. But when I'm looking through the campaign books, I'm looking, well, wait a minute, they don't mention him again. Like the second one's about goblins, the third one's about abyssal dwarves, and then the fourth one is about like these elves. And then the last one's kind of like monsters underneath a city or something, I believe. I don't know, I've not read too much of that one. But the point is, if you're coming into this fresh, you're going to be disappointed if you think you're going to be defeating this necromancer, because the necromancer is in the original game, which is now out of print. So I'm really hoping that the community is able to one of two things. Firstly, that Mantic are actually going to create like some rules to adapt the original kind of Dungeon Saga kind of stuff to the new Dungeon Saga. So that people like myself who've never played it can have a full narrative. So we can actually find this Mortiberus guy and finish him. Now, I don't know how easy that would be, because obviously you're going to be getting new equipment and stuff from the very first campaign all the way throughout, getting boons and things, and it could affect balancing issues. So I don't think it's as simple as just, creating a new, adapting the rule set and just going, oh, this is it. Because I think you are going to have to think about the balancing. If someone's taken 4 characters through 42 missions and they've been leveling up not leveling up, but basically getting legendary gear the whole time, you are going to have to think about how you can balance that going forward. But yeah, if Mantic could come up with, even if it's a free download, or if it's something you have to purchase, like a narrative campaign book, and the miniatures or additional tiles you would need to play the plot from the original one, I think that would be fantastic. It would be something I'd be really interested in looking at. And I know a lot of people are going to be coming to Dungeon Saga Origins not knowing of that first game and wanting a dungeon crawler, and then people who really invest their narrative will be kind of a bit underwhelmed by the fact that you don't fight this Mortuberus. Now, I do understand that they didn't want to affect the kind of the canon of that original game. So that original game, they didn't want to affect anything that happened there. All the stories that people had come up with when they were playing that game originally, all the adventures they'd gone on, they didn't want them to be impacted by a new version, which kind of like just forgets everything that's happened. But for someone coming fresh in, it's frustrating that they set up a bad guy, and the only way you can actually complete that narrative is by finding a secondhand copy of Dungeon Saga. The Dwarf King's Forge, I think it's called, maybe. Tell me if I'm wrong. So the first thing is, Mantic could do a release, and they could probably charge whatever they like for it, and people would pick that up. The second option is that the community, which I'm pretty sure they're going to do this anyway, the community are going to just adapt those initial campaigns from that original game into the new Dungeon Saga Origins. So yeah, it can be resolved, but that's one thing that's a slight negative for me, the fact that narrative isn't complete. Okay, let's talk about terrain. So HeroQuest, one of the main draws of that is the fact that you have some fun terrain. Back in the day when you got out like little plastic and cardboard kind of like tables and not wardrobes, bookcases, it just looked pretty cool. And you had doors, 3D doors on the table, and it just, anything with table presence is always great because it's going to get people excited and people wanting to play this game. So when Mantic had said they were going to be doing some terrain, I know they do terrain crates. They do some fantastic kind of battlefield scenery, which you can clip together, which is so good. We played it for our with Warhammer 40,000, the Leviathan box set. I often get together with my friend Dave and we'll play it, and it looks so cool on the table, and it's really easy to set up and clip together. It's fantastic. So when I saw they were doing terrain, after having played some of Star Saga, I was like, great, there's some really interesting kind of like designs and stuff they do. Getting out of the box, I was disappointed. I was disappointed for two reasons. Firstly, some of it was really warped. And secondly, there wasn't a decent storage solution for it. So it was all just higgledy-piggledy in a box. And when you're going to be painting like I am, you've got to come up with some kind of storage kind of for your, storage solution, because otherwise all that paint's going to chip off. It's just frustrating that there isn't, the main box has storage solutions, but there isn't anything for this like terrain. It's just like, well, we'll just chuck in this terrain. As far as I'm aware, the terrain itself is, I don't think it's specific to this game. I think it is from their other terrain crates, but I actually don't mind that so much. It's just the warping was a bit frustrating, and the storage solution was also a bit frustrating. Speaking of terrain, my other last kind of pet peeve with this really is the fact that, well, there's one additional pet peeve around storage. Is the doors. The doors look great. I like there's some varieties of doors in as well. It's not just all like wooden doors. There's some different like shapes and designs. That's cool. What's not cool is the fact there's no open doors. When you've got terrain and you're bringing it into a game, you expect there to be, when you open a door, you want to see an open door. Zombicide did it with Black Plague, with having open, doors that can physically open. HeroQuest, which is the game I feel these guys are trying to kind of one up, which they definitely have done, just with the gameplay alone. HeroQuest comes with like a ton of open doors and 5 closed doors. And I just feel it's a missed opportunity that they couldn't have just done an archway, a couple of archways, open archways, and you've been set. Yeah, so that's, I don't know if that's unfair of me, because they probably would have had to have a lot more doors in there. Because you open loads of doors in this game. But yeah, just for me, the immersion is kind of taken away a little bit when you replace one of those really nice 3D doors with like a little token. And when you've got those really small tiles and you're moving people past stuff, those tokens are getting like knocked here, there and everywhere. So it's just a little frustrating they didn't just go that extra mile to just add a ton of open doors. And if they did release open doors, I'd pick them up, because I'm really enjoying this. I don't want to just take my HeroQuest doors and use this for that. I don't want to kind of sully the good name of Dungeon Saga Origins with some HeroQuest open doors. I just want to use what's in the actual box itself. And I just feel it's a shame they didn't have some open doors. Finally, my last kind of pet peeve is the storage solution itself is both a great thing and a frustrating thing. If you paint up miniatures, it's going to be an issue for you. If you don't paint up miniatures, the storage solution is fantastic. You have, which one of the good points I have for this game is the storage solution is pretty great. However, if you're painting it, it's very tight, kind of like storage. So there's a place for every single miniature in there, but putting them in and taking them out is really hard. They're really tight. So you really have to kind of pull off, and as you pull off, you're going to be scraping paint off. And even if you kind of varnish that thing, I think you're still going to be having some issues with getting in and out. So if you are a miniature painter, you're probably going to have to come up with your own solution for this. Or if, like me, you're just going to have to keep like doing little coats of paint every now and again, then that's what you can do. But yeah, so storage solution a little too tight. But let's talk about the positives, because this game, there is a ton of positives for it. So maybe I'll put a little kind of like timestamp in here, so if you just want to skip past all the negatives and get to the great stuff, just come to minute 21 or whatever we're on. So let's talk about the Overlord. One of my bugbears of HeroQuest is the I've sat there and I've played it as the kind of the dungeon master with my kids, and I've done it with friends, and it is boring. It is so boring. You are just facilitating a game for other people to play. Other people to play. Now, if I'm sitting down to play a role-playing game, I do not mind being a dungeon master because I am interacting with other people at the table, and fun situations come up and we have a good time kind of overcoming those situations. Bad dice rolls, good dice roll. It's just fun. It's a great social interaction, and yeah, as a dungeon master, you feel involved. You feel like you're beside them when they're winning. You feel you're beside them when they're failing. But it's just a great experience, and just I'd always say DMing is just fun. I love doing it. But being the DM in HeroQuest is so dull. You're literally just, even if you put a bit of flourish to it, like I try and do little flourishes when I'm doing Dungeon Saga Origins, but even if you put a little flourish on it, it's so dull. You're just opening doors and just spawning monsters and then moving minimal spaces, having to wait for your turn. Yeah, there's minimal interaction with the players. You're literally just moving monsters, rolling dice. That's it. Dungeon Saga Origins, however, I feel that is not the case. Yes, you are simply just facilitating other people having the game. It's not like Imperial Assault or Descent 2nd Edition, where you've got like a branching narrative depending on who wins which adventure. So no branching narrative. It's a simple linear structure to this. However, I feel so invested in it. I absolutely love the fact that the Overlord has interrupt tokens. So you can spawn all these monsters on the board, but if a heroes all get to activate first, there's a high chance they've taken out all of your monsters before you've even got to do anything. So the fact that you can just interrupt one of those turns, so like Olaf goes in, opens up a door, goes in, smashes one of the monsters, and you're like, wow, he's actually only got a couple of hit points left. I'm going to activate the archer in the room and try and attack him from there. So I just love the idea that you can react to what the players are doing, and also it's not kind of like unfair as well, because you only have 4 like interrupts every and you're going to use 2 of those every round. Once those 4 interrupts are gone, they're gone for the game. So you do have to kind of think about the layout of the level, think about when you're going to be wanting to use these things, and a lot of them are situational. Like in one of them, I knew there was like an archer right near the end they're going to open the door, and it's like he's going to be in position, he'll be able to shoot somebody. I'm going to save it for that. But then earlier on, there was a situation I was like, oh, someone's really weak. I can actually try there and get there and attack them. And there's benefit to you attacking people, because if you manage to knock somebody out, you manage to get a new kind of like, they revive and you get another interrupt token. So it's in your best interest to kind of keep doing that. And it doesn't feel like one of those games like Descent or Imperial Assault, where you're just like, you're just absolutely clogging the board with miniatures to try and like just slow them down. Like Imperial Assault is so frustrating because, as the Imperial player is just trying to bottleneck you the entire time, just keep spawning stuff in really frustrating positions for the rebels. With this one, I feel like the balance is very good. As the Overlord, I feel, there's points where your minions are absolutely decimated, but I've never been absolutely gutted about that. You get a new miniature out I've not played with, like a Dwarf Revenant or a Ghost, and they get taken out in one hit, and you're like, oh, that's a shame. But I'm just enjoying it. So the Overlord has, I don't know, I just feel like the Overlord has a lot more interaction with the players in this, a lot more investment into it. I felt a lot more invested in it, and yeah, I feel like you have a lot of ability to add flourishes to this game. So yeah, so it's fantastic. I love making little sound effects for opening doors, but I could do that with any game, but and I often do. But yeah, anyway, so I'd say playing the Overlord doesn't feel like a task, doesn't feel like a chore. It feels fun and it feels good. It feels right. Okay, so not just basic. I've written that down here on my little kind of notepad I've got of things about this. HeroQuest, I'm going to keep comparing this to HeroQuest and other kind of dungeon crawling games, and that's fine, because a lot of people will draw this comparison. HeroQuest, you move and then you act, and you got like 4 or 5 actions you can do on your turn. And it's frustrating because what if I want to act and then move? Well, Dungeon Saga Origins has you covered for that, because you can move and then act, or act and then move, which seems like just very basic stuff, but it just elevates it so much, especially when you're trying to, get the hell out of a dungeon or get to a room as quickly as possible. Being able to attack before you move, why would you limit your players? Why would you limit players to, punish them saying, oh, you can only do this and then that? Or at least that's how I play HeroQuest. Now I'm wondering whether you can act then move, but I think you do have to move then act. Yeah, because you have to roll your dice first and then, yeah. Anyway, a lot of dungeon crawlers do it where you can choose to do actions and then move and that kind of stuff. So it's not unique to Dungeon Saga Origins, but if I'm comparing it to HeroQuest, which I am, that's chef's kiss. It's great. In fact, you can move diagonally in this game. The actual combat is really interesting, where you have a front arc and a back arc. I really enjoy that. It adds a bit more strategy to the game, just a bit more depth. So you are having to think about where you're placing monsters, where you're facing monsters. You have more options when you're attacking players. The whole idea that you can overwhelm players with the more characters you have around them. It's just really interesting and fun. Exciting gameplay. I've written that down there. I've not played a game of this where I've not come away thinking that was great. Even when I played solo, I've really enjoyed it. I've thought it's been very interesting AI mechanics they've done for that, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do for the app. And if Mantic are watching this and you want anyone to voice any enemies or anything, feel free to get in touch. I'd love to be involved. But yeah, the gameplay itself is really exciting. I feel like I'm on the edge of my seat when the players are kind of rolling dice. If you look at the second episode we did, where we had Sundadarian, or whatever his name was, it was literally just a skeleton that turned up on a board, and I think we went through like a round and a half where everyone attacked this guy and no one could land a blow. And that guy is going to be down in the, that's going to be a story that is going to be shared between us for a long time coming. If we ever have if we ever have a bad guy that we're fighting in any game and they're really tough, I'm fairly certain one of us is going to refer to, oh, it's Sir Dundarian, he's come back from the dead. But yeah, that kind of excitement, that kind of generating stories that are going to, shared stories, shared narrative, and things you're going to remember for a long time, that's fantastic. The gameplay is very exciting. Rolling the dice and hoping to beat scores, it's great. And as an Overlord player as well, it's really fun having, just spawning new monsters, revealing traps, and yeah, also, all the treasure and stuff they're finding. It's exciting. Another thing, hero's abilities. HeroQuest, you ain't got anything. You got a barbarian, he rolled 3 dice because he's got a sword. He's got some more hit points. Great. You got a dwarf who can check for traps. An elf gets 1 set of spells. Magician gets 3. Boring myself talking about it. This one, you feel like these guys are heroes. They have got their own kind of ability that sticks with them, and they also have an ability you get to choose out, one of 2 abilities. And the really fun thing about this is the fact that you don't have they're not overpowered. It's not like they can use this every time they're playing. The legendary gear and the equipment they have as well, that is also quite limited to the use as well. So you're never overpowered as an Overlord player, really. It's always very finely balanced. But having the heroes have their own abilities, loads of dungeon crawlers do it. It just sets them apart. So you have a tank, you have a healer, you've got your different kind of, your tropes, your classes and stuff. And it really adds a lot to the game. Whereas HeroQuest, you're just kind of wandering around and yeah. But yeah, hero's abilities are great. Speedy setup and teardown. This is so quick to get out. I mentioned it briefly earlier. You've got a couple of tiles, you get them out, you put the right orientation, you put some doors down, you sort out your monster cards you're going to be using. shuffle the treasure deck. What's more to know? As the Overlord, you do have to have a bit of prep work to just look through the mission. I will look through a mission and I will forget certain bits and then be like, oh guys, wait, you need to, there's a reason you've not been able to get anywhere because you've not found this, and that's because I haven't spawned it in this room because I forgot. So yeah, there is some kind of prep you need to do as an Overlord. You need to read that thing at least twice. Once when you're initially setting that thing up, then once more once you're about to play the game, just so you remember. I would say that the storage is also very good. Although it's a bit tight, there's a home for everything. And so many times you'll get a big box dungeon crawler and you will unpunch everything, and then the lid is like just kind of like about that far away from the base, and you're like, oh, it doesn't quite fit. So it's really nice they've thought about the storage, and there's a place for everything in there. Would it be nice if they had some tokens for searching, for exploring? The second mission, you have to explore rooms. So would it be nice if there was some tokens you could use? I was using, I think, the experience tokens. I was using the ones that are supplied with the game. I've got enough games here, I could pick any token from a game and just use those. But it would be nice if they included something in there for that. Is there anything else? No. My overall thoughts of this game after 3... Yes, there is. There is one more thing, which is something that the players themselves wanted. Leveling up. Leveling up is very interesting because in this game, when you get a certain amount of experience, you get a boon. It's a one-time use ability that will help you out and get out of a sticky situation. The players didn't want that. The players wanted skill trees. The players wanted leveling up. We've been spoiled by the likes of Shadows of Brimstone. Let's just say that. Shadows of Brimstone, you have a tree to go down. Shadows of Brimstone is very much dungeon crawl / role-playing game. You've got, like, you're leveling your characters up. Massive Darkness did it, where you've got like a little skill tree you're doing. So in between adventures, you feel your characters are having progression. They're getting more and more honed in their skills. And the other games, they kind of, they balance that by having the enemies level up alongside you. Now, there isn't any leveling up mechanic in this with regards to the enemies leveling up with you. You can make the game harder, but which is pretty interesting. You have that option in the back of the rule books. But yeah, the players wanted a bit more character growth. They wanted a bit more, something to kind of like give them a reward for doing missions or not, fainting during a mission, for instance. But you do get the boons, one-time use effects. But my players would have preferred if there was like permanent things that stayed with your character and you leveled up going forward. Now, this is a game which lends itself very well to homebrewing and creative content from the community. So I can imagine it'd be very easy for people to actually come up with, I say very easy, I don't mean to diminish the difficulty of developing board games. I just want to put it out there because it probably isn't very easy. There's going to be a lot of balancing issues. But my point being, someone with the right mindset could probably sit down and work out some kind of like leveling up tree that you do each kind of campaign. So you reset at the end of like the first campaign, for instance, and then I'm just speculating now, but and you could do something to increase the difficulty with the monsters. So the monsters become more powerful. They have an additional dice. You have like you come up with some cards which give them random abilities, for instance. So yeah, I think this is something you could easily implement that yourself. And Mantic, if you're watching this and you're listening, I think you've got a great product here that you could definitely expand upon. Like if you did a super Dungeon Saga Origins where you've got like, you add a new mode in there where people level up as they go along, that might be cool. So I was pretty sad to find out that as far as I'm aware, this is all the content they're doing for this game. You get that Dungeon Saga Ultimate all-in pledge thing, you got everything they're going to make for this. I hope that's not the case. And I really hope the Dungeon Saga Origins really kicks off because they've got a fantastic game here. It is the game HeroQuest wishes it was. It is fantastic fun as the 1v-many kind of player. I'm normally the one because I play the games the most, and I don't really like 1v-many games because I always feel the balancing's a bit off. Balancing is very good for this game. And yeah, it's just after 3 games, guys. So this is still after 3 games. I'm going to come back after I played 6, 9, 10. Definitely after I finish the first campaign and come back and give you an update of how I feel this game's gone. But yeah, this is a game I really hope they keep producing stuff for. This I often think about games as game systems. We've got Arkham Horror behind me here, which is a game system. You get like a core box and they keep releasing stuff and it adds to it. You also got HeroQuest as a game system. Shadows of Brimstone is a game system. Core Space, which I've recently been playing. Game systems. Really interesting kind of concept where you have a game and then you just chuck more stuff, more expansions into it, and it kind of goes on. I really hope that they do continue doing Dungeon Saga Origins stuff, because I sit down at the table, I play this, and I immediately want to go on to the next one. And that is rare, if I'm honest. I play so many games, so many narrative games, so many campaign games, and a lot of the time, Shadows of Brimstone, for instance, I can play 2 games of that in a sitting, and then I'm probably done because it's so intensive on the old grey matter, and you know, finding where you've put everything, it just spreads itself everywhere. HeroQuest, I'll play 1 game of that and then I'm done for a month. Arkham Horror, I'll play a couple of games of that, maybe 2 games in a night, but it gets too depressing because you'll lose a lot. So it's like, Core Space, I love to sit down and keep playing sessions. That's one I play and I want to play again, but the setup and teardown is crazy long. Dungeon Saga is in a very, very good sweet spot. It takes 10-15 minutes to set up teardown. You've got a little town phase. You don't have to do too much with it. And it's exciting and unique enough to want to keep coming back and playing this. So this is a game I keep wanting to play. I want to sit down. I want to play it. I'm thinking about it when I'm not playing it. So yeah, this is definitely really high praise from me. I couldn't be happier with Dungeon Saga Origins. I've got a list of things that, yeah, they're pet peeves, but overall, I think the gameplay, the excitement, the just the general narrative of it, I just really enjoy it. So anyway, that's enough of me rambling about my thoughts of Dungeon Saga Origins. If you can pick yourself up a copy of it, if you don't have one, I highly recommend it. If you're thinking about what should you get, HeroQuest or Dungeon Saga Origins, I would 100% go for Dungeon Saga Origins, depending on availability, of course. And we will be doing a video where once I've finished the 10 missions in this, I will be doing a proper comparison with HeroQuest, because I feel, although I'm kind of like dumping on HeroQuest here, I haven't finished the first 10 adventures of that that are included in the base game. I've played 7 of them so far. I've got a couple more to do, and I've also not finished all of Dungeon Saga Origins. At the moment, I feel the missions have been quite unique, but it might be a bit of repetition as I go through the next 7 missions. So I will be doing a video at the end of this kind of series to go, hey, this is what I actually thought. And if you'd like to see me do this solo or a co-op against the AI, just to see how that works, please let me know in the comments below, and I can facilitate that as well. So yeah, anyway, that's enough from me. Hope you're doing all right. And depending on when I do this, I hope you have a merry festive season, or that you had a merry festive season. Please stay tuned to the channel and like and subscribe. Tell all your friends about this. The more people who are watching, the more content I can drive out. It's fantastic as well, you guys commenting and interacting with us. And if any of you guys are in the UK, which I imagine a lot of you guys will be, and you'd like to play with Die Rollin, we're going to be at AirCon in March. We're going to be bringing a load of Shadows of Brimstone content with us. And if you are interested in seeing what Shadows of Brimstone is about, or you have it and you want to get some free promo cards that the Flying Frog sent us, then yeah, come join us in March. We will be glad to see you. And do you know what? Even if you don't want to play Shadows of Brimstone, please come along to AirCon and come and find myself. Alex will be there. I'm not sure if the other 2 guys will be there. And yeah, come along, sit down with us and play some games and have some good times. Anyway, I'm going to head off now. I've been the ever-excitable Adam. Until next time, guys, please stay safe or die rolling.